Okay, shall we start with some stretching? Then up and down. And then just rubbing the hands. And then rubbing the knees. And then just alternating. So you get a twist in the shoulders, the head. Rubbing the hands again. And then hands on the down chin. This is home, the down chin. Like your mind is settling into this place. And that frees up the head to move. So now just letting the head sway. Hands apart and just pulling in the belly, tighten the belly muscles, screw up the eyes, clench the fists, and then open. Pulling in, pushing out, in, out. And then a little bit with the arms behind. Feel the thymus, the upper heart. You want that point to wake up. And it's connected to the tail. So you can also have a little bit of your attention at the tip of the tail. We have to make sure that when we sit, we're sitting on our sitting bones and our tail is free. The tip of the tail is searching downwards and the thymus is searching upwards. And then just bring the hands out. And now just feel the thymus. Feel it's like a little sort of wriggling or a sort of flashing. and allow it to be that. It's that activity, your awareness of that activity, that brings your hands into prayer. It's like the tip of your middle fingers are with the thymus that's searching upwards. So it's the activity in my heart that's made my hands come together and lift. And the tail is always like the shadow of the thymus. So if my thymus is active, then so will my tail be. Let's just move from leg to leg just to warm up. My leg reaches and grabs at the ground. It's the leg roundening, just like when the arm roundens into ward off. It does so by expanding here. It doesn't just do this. There's something happens in the shoulder, and that's what I want to feel happening in the hip. So it's not simply a matter of just bending my knee. This has to spread from the hip, or feel like it is. So my leg expands into a scoop rather than shrinking into one. And the expansion is very much from the sacrum. So from here, it's growing in order to reach down. That's it. That's great. See how you're hunching? You're like a dwarf, like one of those squat dwarves in Lord of the Rings, mining, hunched. So we're sort of getting down to earth. We're just trying to make that really sort of tactile, physical connection with the ground rather than simply an energetic one. I'm really willing to get my hands down there, to get my hands dirty. So now, you've got this feeling that you're sort of wanting to sort of just scoop down into the ground. So it's a different feeling than the one we've been working on, which is just this sense of rain, of this vertical flow downwards. This is much more sort of like I'm trying to grab something that's close to the ground. Like a child that's having a tantrum and doesn't want to be picked up, and you try and pick it up, and suddenly it just weighs a ton. Holding on stubbornly to the ground. Again, it's a different mood, a different animal. Different archetype. And it's interesting, things like Lord of the Rings, this sort of whole mythology. And it's like each creature, like the elf, the wizard, the orc, the man, the dwarf. They're all like archetypes. We contain all of them. We contain an image of all of them. So like the little ones, the hobbits and the dwarves, are just digging into the ground. The hobbits live in holes and the dwarves are miners. And the elves, who are light and ethereal, live in the trees. So we want to just wake up the images, wake up those archetypes and just work with them and just let them abide inside you. Now, it's this one we did last time where I'm teasing the hands. So the hands pushing together and then pulling apart. Very much like I'm squeezing a rubber ball and then stretching an elastic thread. As I push the hands together, there's a force pushing them apart, which I then flow with. As they move apart, there's a force pulling them together. I want to feel the energy leading the movement. So I'm purposefully keeping it slow so that I can feel the separate phases. So I can feel the energy ahead. And we want to feel the spirit. So it's a very different spirit that makes this happen to what makes this happen. So here, something in me the spirit basically has to do the same as what the body's going to do. So something in my spirit, comes in like that. And that starts the energy flowing and then the body moving. And now something in my spirit brightens up like a flame that suddenly bursts into life. And then this is all like concealing, it's like becoming hidden. secretive. And then this is just really exposing something. That's it, lovely, like a flower blossoming. And then now, like those, like a morning glory that goes to sleep in the afternoon, and then come morning, it wakens up. Right. Now just riding horse. And now just connect with that, the rain. So something is flowing down. And you want to let go and let go and let go sufficiently to feel the vigor of your thrust upwards from the ground. So there's a balance between this very gentle flow down and your own strength growing up from the ground. And now let's try the tree, the ent. So I'm going to bring the ground up into me, but I'm also going to bring the heavens down into me. So first of all, I reach down my roots, my legs, into the ground, and then I suck the ground up into my Dan Chen, and then I reach up into the heart and branch out from the heart, reaching up and then pulling the heavens down into the Dan Chen, and then splitting at the Dan Chen down each leg, and then pulling up to the Dan Chen, into the heart, and now branching out, reaching up and pulling down. So think of your legs as being roots. So the ground comes up all the way to your Dan Chen. So that's in the ground. And now this is the bole of the tree. And now the branches branch out and reach up and pull down all that sunlight. And then you reach down into the ground. And what we want to do is try and feel the tail and the thymus again. So as it splits down the legs, there's a little bit left for the tail. So it's like half of it goes down one leg, half it goes down the other, but not quite. So I've got three things, the two legs and this little tail that's come alive a little bit because it's taken some of the energy. And then the same thing here, the arms branch out, but this thymus here is like a little tail that's looking upwards, takes some of the energy. So each passage of this exercise enlivens the tail here, and then the thymus as I reach upwards. So my legs are directed by the tail, and the arms are directed by the thymus. And pulling it down into the heart, and then going into the two circles. The one hand reaches forwards and then pulls in, and then it continues behind you in order to catch that cloak that you're wearing, that cloak of energy. You can also imagine like you're picking up a net and throwing it over the other person. So there are all sorts of images. You just have to really go with whichever one you choose to use so it becomes a reality. That's an act of spirit. Imagination becomes reality. That's what spirit is, really. Okay, now let's try the same thing, but now what tends to happen, when we work on something and it's working well and the image is strong and we're feeling it, it tends to come up into the upper body a bit too much. So the struggle all the time is to try and keep it sucking down into the ground. So now let's just try the same thing, but let the hand that's coming in really drop down and brush the knee. So I get a real sense that at least part of the time, my mind is down beneath my dantian. It's real groundwork. The groundwork in anything people don't like because it's just like hard work and it's boring. But that's the bulk of the work, I'm afraid. Yeah, that's it. That's it. It was just, almost like your hands are just heavy and it's difficult to stop them from going down there. Connecting with the gravity, that the rain, think of a drizzle. It's barely raining, but you've got this sense of downwards. And then we just want to connect with the levity. For that, just imagine the candle flame, like a dark room, and there's just one little candle with a gentle flame flickering upwards, the glow of which is barely illuminating the room. So very much this sort of homely, like the winter fireplace. When as a kid, you used to just love huddling around the fire with the lights off in the winter and just watching the flames, watching the colors in the flames. It's like that here. This is being pulled down. This is the gravity operating upon the sacrum and the tail. But there's a flame flickering in the room, and that's the heart, that's the thymus. Already that time we were in Sinai, and so Sinai's in northern Egypt. It's the border with Israel, and it's very beautiful, magical place. And we were staying at a resort, and we decided to get a taxi down to the next resort because they had like a better reef, so more coral and more fishes and things. So we ordered this taxi, and he came. He's just a boy, probably not old enough to drive, but lovely, lovely. And I sat in the seat next to him, and he was just driving along with one hand on the wheel like this, and the other hand was just like this opposite his heart, and he was just praying the whole time. So just not wasting any time. And the feeling in the car was just exquisite, and this gentle sweetness. He was just all smiles. So something is lifting and something is sinking. And what we want to feel is that we have to get that separation for it to be clean. So the rising up, this sense of something floating upwards here is helping the tail drop down. So you can't have one without the other, you know, like love and marriage. Now let's just go backwards and forwards doing this one. So one side of my body is straightening and extending, and then it bends and contracts and allowing the other side. So full and empty. And I want to feel the mood, you know. So the filling is, again, it's this sort of pulling in. Something in me has to get strong in order to stop myself from falling down. And the emptying is really just release. So one side of my body is releasing, the other side is holding on. And again, I have to get both. Otherwise, you know, neither will be complete. So it's only when one side really grips and supports that the other side can completely let go. A bit like one of those jesters, you know, has like the two masks, one with a smile on and one with a frown. And so the filling side is sort of frowning, it's getting serious and a little bit grim as the other side starts really grinning. And other side. Really try and straighten the back leg. Make sure that when we practice something, we really go from extreme to extreme. We don't want to just dance around in the middle, because then all the muscles will just get shorter, and so will the range of our mind. So I really fill here, I really empty here. And then this is the difficult one, to get this really full and this really empty. You need to lean forwards as you come into the front foot, really. Good. And now let's just try just a little bit the figure of 8. So it's basically the same as the two circles, but I'm just visualizing the continuity between the two. Now remember, as I come here, I really want to feel the relaxation into this leg, releasing this plume of energy that my hand follows and encourages. Something is being released from the back here. So, and now let's try a little bit of this one. So with a view of getting the tail to swing. So stop thinking and seek awareness, or become aware. Wake up. So it's only really when you begin to succeed in that you realize just how much energy is wasted by thinking to yourself. So when you're thinking to yourself all the time, you only have the energy to conform. And of course, this is one of the functions of the thinking mind, is to make us all well-behaved conformists. So when this quietens down a bit, then you feel just, becoming awake is not just a matter of just, becoming aware of the things in the room. It's really becoming aware of the magical, energetic aspects of your own body. That's it, that's it. So you're sort of becoming a little bit sort of contorted and, eccentric. Off center. And then we want to step. What I really want to do is learn how to pick a foot off the ground. So when we were doing the figures of 8s like this, what tends to happen when you've got both feet planted is that as I come into one foot, there tends to be a lean like this. So that what that means is that I'm getting my center of gravity over the foot by leaning. And what we want to do is get the tail, the tip of my tail. So I don't think of the center of gravity. I'd need to come over here a bit. So what I'm doing is I'm getting my tail to find the heel. And when I do, I'm much more over here with my body than usual. So I really have liberated this foot from the ground. There's no temptation for it to fall back down. I've really gone out, and you have to use the hip. You have to sort of roll the hip. So I'm using my hip to throw my tail out and my arm out in this direction. And then I can feel the very tip of my coccyx like a little eye that's looking down and going into the ground through my heel. And then here again, I pull and the hip is largely responsible for getting the weight into the foot so that the other foot can come off the ground. My hip squeezes it out. It has to wake up a playful element for it to work properly. I'm going here and something squeezes out. And this again is just all the way through the form. You can, every time you pick the foot off the ground, there should be an element of this. You feel it most, when the foot is resting off the ground, but like when you've just kicked, or just before the kick, or golden rooster. But there's something magical about having a foot off the ground. You're a different creature by the time it's off the ground. It's like there's much more spirit because you're not earthing, you're not tied so much to the earth. And so one and something goes out, and I really throw this hip outwards. And the hip goes out. And you can practice this as you walk down the street. It doesn't have to be too explicit, otherwise you get locked up. But there is a sense that you're sort of using the hip to throw the foot out. It's just waking it up, trying to wake up the spirit. Bring it back to riding horns. Feel it all, everything we've worked on. So these legs grabbing down, the same as the arms are grabbing out and in. The rain drizzling down around you, the candle flame flickering here. You can almost feel the hot air under your chin. And then these plumes that come out from the sacroiliacs and reach around. They come out and will come down sort of into the ground, but we can use the hips to direct this plume, to flick it out and around the other person. So when you're properly sunk and properly awake, then it should feel like the hip bones really grow. They're sort of out here somewhere. They're quite hefty. So they swell with energy. And it's not just your energy, it's something that's come up from the ground. So it's to do with your connection with the ground. And then feel the thymus here, the flame that's flickering. Yeah, so this coming up like this. Now you can also feel the same sort of thing here, the top of the head, so the crown, something's coming up here, the forehead, so here, like just above between the eyes, and the occiput here, something flickering up. You're almost a flame. You're like a birthday cake. Well, then let's bring it up. And big toes in, little toes out, which requires me to really try and spread the toes. Big toes hooking down, tip of the tongue on the roof of the mouth. So what we don't want to do is clench the teeth, which is what people tend to do when they concentrate. So the tip of the tongue on the roof of the mouth is a bit like the alternative to clenching your teeth. The teeth can be touching, but never pressed into each other. And you can imagine the tip of the tongue just pushing up into these flames. You can direct it into this flame here, into this flame here, into this flame here, and then really pull the tongue back and point it into the occiput. The tongue is strong. We just need to get really used to working with images. You're conjuring images in your imaginative mind. Without that, it's just all physical. If you don't get the images, then there's no energy, basically. Or the energy is just quite boring and coarse. Okay, so now and again, let's just bring it down again. Okay, so just feel the thymus, feel this flame flickering up. And it's like that flame calls your hands. So my hands come up to join with this flame. So my middle fingers are being directed really by the flame in my heart. This is what we want, this is the struggle, to wake up the heart so that it can direct our actions. So ideally, we'd like everything that we do, literally everything, to be directed from the heart, rather than the planning, thinking head. Impulsive, in a very gentle way. So when you do something, you're not quite sure why, where it's come from. Just the simple things, the simple gestures, what is it that makes you look out the window? What is it that makes you go and make a cup of tea? And just feeling that impetus, feeling that spark, that flame that causes the action.